Hello everybody, welcome to The Last Lap. I'm Rich Farmer, this is Shelly Lisky. I'm filling in for Brian Smith this week, and tonight we're going to have Rob Cheney and Guy Webb on the show discussing the future of the sport a little bit, and just congratulating Rob on his win at Fremont. Rob, we got you there?
Yes.
How you doing tonight?
I'm good.
Congratulations on the win at Fremont there.
Thank you. It's always tough to get those between Attica and Fremont, and we definitely don't take it lightly.
Well, it looked like you had one covered at Attica too the other night. Packed a wheel or something, the way I understood it.
Yeah, we were pretty good early in the race. Definitely had a shot at it, so you hate to give those away, but definitely feel good about where we're at with our cars right now.
Well, that's got to be good. I know that the 9X car is kind of struggles here and there, and it seems like you guys are turning the corner and got it rolling good, and Stan's got to be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, those guys, they've been together forever, and I was just thinking about it. 1999 was the first time I drove that car, and I've driven it the majority of my career over the years, so we definitely have a strong history, whether I'm driving that car or not. And so it's fun to get wins for guys like that. They mean a little bit more, and they've worked really hard with me this year, and we've made a lot of changes with cars we're running, motors we're running to get to where we're at right now.
Well, and that's what it takes. And I know Jimmy's all about that race car, and he really enjoys working with you guys and Stan and everybody. So.
And Benson's been around a long time too, hasn't he, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't ever remember.
They are a very dedicated group of guys, and that's what it takes. People who aren't directly involved in that part of it probably would never understand the amount of work that it takes, the amount of dedication it takes just to run on a weekly basis. So, any successful team has an extremely dedicated group of guys.
Absolutely. Speaking of dedication and groups of guys and all that, I guess I put you on the spot on the Renegade deal a little bit. We've seen your name used in commitment to their series, and we're just kind of wondering how serious that commitment is, and are we going to see the 9X on the road, or is it going to be a hit and miss type of deal, or what kind of commitment do you have there?
Ultimately, that'll boil down to whatever Stan wants to do. That obviously is his decision. My commitment to any of it is I believe that we're due for a change in our sport. I think that it takes just like a team, it takes a group of people to put these races on, and I think that there's a little bit of a weak link in our system right now that needs fixed. And if the Renegade Series is the fix, then I'm behind it.
Do you feel that is the fix? Do you feel the group of guys and the stuff that they got mapped out is the fix?
To me, it's too early to tell that. I think that it probably boils down to a lot. There's so many variables that are up in the air right now.
How would you like to see it?
If tracks don't sign with them, then obviously they're not going to survive. So it all depends on where the rest of the guys who haven't committed to it go, and how the chips fall. I really don't know. I think that probably at the end of it, our sport's going to be better regardless of who survives, and I truly believe only one of them will survive.
You said it needs fixing, Rob. You personally, how would you like to see what would you like to see fixed?
I just think that there's, when you look at the drivers and the teams, as far as the owners go, it just, there's a lot of things right now with the All-Stars that the guys just aren't really getting treated the way they want, and I don't have a super strong opinion because I've never raced the All-Stars for points, so I don't have a lot of the stories that some of these other guys do. So I might not be as strong on it as they are, but I've had enough dealings over the years to know that it could be different and it could be better for our sport, and I think that we definitely need to move forward, or it's going to be a struggle, and you guys know from running a racetrack how much work it is and how much you have to put into it to keep teams coming, to keep car counts and fans in the stands, and I think that there's some work to be done in these series for that.
Absolutely, there's definitely some work, and he announced the Renegades have announced that they have a race August the 23rd at Atomic Speedway, and that's competing heads up against Attica for a weekly race, and heads up against Mercer for an all-star show. I mean, they're really drawing the line in the sand there, and making some people make some difficult decisions. Because they've announced, like yourself, you're in Attica. You've been running Attica fairly regularly with Stan, and then you got some of the other guys that they've announced that are going to run this, or at least support the series to some extent. They got them listed as well, and then you got the All-Star show up at Mercer, and it's if they plan to run 50 events throughout Ohio and western edges of Pennsylvania and Indiana, the radius that they've discussed, I'm sure they're not making too many friends with Attica and Mercer right now, and those are probably a couple key racetracks in order to get 50 dates. It's they're not going to do it with just Atomic.
Yeah, I don't think there's, I guess, that there's an easy solution to that. I think that you're going to buck the system no matter what you do. I don't know that it's going to be better for the sport until somebody wins. And, at the end of that, I don't know who that's going to be. I don't think anybody does. Everybody has their opinion, but it might be worse for a little while. But my hope is, and to be honest with you, it's not necessarily just for me, or even maybe at all for me. I mean, I'm 38 years old and probably am not going to be around for 20 more years. These guys that are young that are coming through here that want to be race car drivers and want to drive sprint cars, there needs to be something in 20 or 30 years for them to be here still. And I don't know, maybe a hiccup now makes the sport strong enough to survive that much longer. I don't know. I think that's my idea of it.
And that could very well be. We've seen these hiccups, as you call it, in the past with the World of Outlaws, with little to no success. With the NST series, with the USA series. Emmett Hahn at one time put a 410 sprint car series together, in and around Ohio, that I don't even know that if it ever even had a single event. And there's been some swings at this, and in several different occasions. Joe Darmafall did the deal with the Midwest, Mass it was called, and a lot of this stuff, it starts and stops and doesn't really succeed so well, and you got the MOA thing out there in Illinois, somewhat in Indiana, but predominantly in Illinois, and they're after speaking with them, they say that that area can't afford to play on that stage. They can't afford to play on that all-star Renegade type of stage with the cost, and that's why they created that MOA series to have some winged racing over there. In the non-wing world in Illinois, Indiana, they can't be bringing winged sprint car shows in there and paying them the purses that like we do in Ohio, because then their non-wing guys are gonna wonder why they're racing for nothing.
Yeah, I guess when it boils down to it, I've had 2 conversations with Shane Helms, and what I can say is I support his vision for sprint car racing. Whether it ends up being him that makes it work or someone else, I like what his vision for sprint cars is, and I think that that's the direction it needs to go regardless, and I guess that's what I support. I support it moving forward. I support it being better for the owners, and I think that at this point, that's what we need to do. There's so many people involved that have to be able to win in the deal. The series has to survive, the promoter has to survive, but the owners have to survive also.
Ultimately,
and
the fan
I
needs to
think
survive.
that, the schedules, all of these things that go into that, I think there's definitely a lot of room for improvement.
You mentioned that you spoke with Shane and he has a vision. We had Shane on last week, and I guess maybe I missed the vision. Could you give me some insight on what that vision is for that series?
Well, I think that at this point, what he's saying is he wants to make it better for the racers. He wants it to be where eventually they can make better money or race for better money. You know, I don't really, I didn't have a detailed conversation with him. I had a couple of 5-minute conversations with him, and along with obviously a lot of people, whether this thing survives or does good or does bad, it's moving very fast, and for anything to move very fast, you have to have some support. So I think that there's other people that agree with what he does, and you know, whether they're on board. My personal opinion is that we'll find out really quick when the All-Stars come back here and they start running races, and then we'll find out. It won't be hard to know where everybody stands.
Now, when you look at the part when the All-Stars come back and start running races, you know, we already got the line in the sand, so to speak, on the Atomic race on the 23rd. The All-Stars' next event's the 2-day show at Attica to finish up their season down there, and then they have the 2-day event at my place. So, are you kind of indicating that we may not get supportive cars for these events?
I'm not. I would say that there's 100% chance that the 9X will be there, because, like I said, the only support I'm giving is from a driver standpoint, saying I agree with what this guy's trying to do as far as make things better, if he can do that, and if he can't, maybe it'll make it better in another way. But I will go wherever Stan says we're racing, so I can guarantee that car will be there. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if these guys who are saying they're committed to it, you know, if they're committed to it, then I guess if they're proving a point, then they don't come to those races. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
And that would be.
I haven't talked to a single person that has said that. I haven't really talked to a whole lot of people about it, period. But that's just my thinking is, if guys are going to prove a point, that's how they're going to do it.
Yeah, and that would be an unfortunate deal, because those events for Attica, Fremont, Wayne County has an event Labor Day weekend, and this, to me, it kind of seems that this is where the Renegade Series is kind of born from, is from the incident, or however you want to call it, at Wayne County, that seems like it could have been avoided because of the weather. I don't know if you were part of that or not, but
no, I wasn't.
That seems to be where all of this has kind of stemmed from, you know, in the short term. What brought it to the surface, rather. Maybe it's been building, but it's kind of what seems has brought it to the surface. So.
Yeah, I don't really know. Like I said, I haven't talked to enough other people to see why they feel the way they do. But I just feel like all these guys wouldn't be as bold as they've been already about it if they didn't feel fairly strongly about it. So, you know, I think that it proves that it's due for change, and I don't know that anybody can disagree with that.
I don't know that you
agree with the way it's going to happen, or what it could do for a while before it sorts itself out. But I think it'll be better in the end, regardless of who prevails.
Yeah, I'm not going to debate that there's change that's needed. I strongly agree that there's change that is needed myself. It's just a matter of how we get there, and I haven't, you know, with Knoxville and all that stuff, I haven't had really much time I haven't spoke to Shane at any kind of length on this. I have spoke to Greg Wilson, Chad Kemenall come out to see me, but I haven't spoke to Shane, and you know, it's nothing against drivers by any means, but typically when you get like Greg has come and talked to me before and hasn't been straight up with me about some things, so it's kind of, you know, I'm kind of on the fence on, you know, my side of it as far as Fremont Speedway goes.
Well, I guess the one thing I know with racing and with business and with anything you do, change is always difficult, and there's always a winner and a loser at the end of it. So I think that's kind of where we're at. I think it's going to be a rocky road for a while. It might not be great for everyone involved, but I think at the end of it, it's going to be better.
Well, and what we gotta keep in mind is what we can't let suffer is the fan base. If the fan base ends up suffering, then we dilute the fan base out. You know, we offend some people. People don't come back. People, you know.
Well, and for your average fan, I mean, you have your diehard fans, and you have your fans that know what your average fan hears this stuff and it confuses them, and they're, they don't know what's all going on, and my opinion.
Well, the average fan, just like you're saying, wouldn't understand all of this stuff. Like, what's the big deal? It's always a great show. There's great car count, all of that stuff. But, it's a business, and there's always more to it than what you see on the outside. So, if you have a business and your workers aren't happy, then you have a problem.
Absolutely. Well, Rob, you making your way up to Fremont this weekend?
We are planning on being there, but we also usually don't make that decision until about Thursday. So we're kind of a Thursday kind of team.
Well, we'll be glad to have you up there, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us tonight. And look forward to seeing you at the racetrack.
All right, we'll see you guys.
All right, see ya. Well, that was interesting.
Well, there you have it from one driver's perspective.
Well, I think as a whole we're going to see. I don't think there's any debate in what he says.
And I do think that a lot of them feel I think a lack of respect. Respect goes a long way, and I think there's been some lack of respect on both sides. And I think, me personally, I think that they're wanting some respect, and I get that, and you probably get that. And
I get it to the extent, and I understand that they want respect and they deserve respect, and as does the people that organize and run the series deserve respect. But how that can be, it's
right.
In the racing business, everybody wants what's best for themselves for the most part. People reaching out to try to better the entire sport like these guys may be doing is it's something that's going to be challenging for them, but we'll see how it turns out.
I do have to agree with you when you talk about they've made a bold move. To me, when I read their release about their first race, I kind of feel if I was in Attica's position or Mercer's position, maybe they're looking like the weakest link. Like they'd rather go up against them 2 racetracks. And I hate to say that, but to me, why Attica and Mercer?
Well,
I understand the Mercer part.
Personally, I feel they went with that route because it divides the cars thinner.
Yeah.
There's only so many cars at Mercer. There's only going to be so many cars at Attica, and then the South at Chillicothe. The Chillicothe they have a large car count weekly. They get 25, 28, 30 cars every week. But the difference between those 28 to 30 cars and Fremont Attica 28 to 30 cars, the closeness in competition at Fremont and Attica is very tight, and the closeness in competition down south, whether it's at Atomic or anywhere down there, Skyline, whatever, the closeness in competition is a long ways away. I mean, it is there's a huge difference. So they may end up winning the car count war, but that doesn't necessarily mean they won the quality of car war. And some people, you want to see, cars, the average fan, it comes back to that average fan. Average fan pulls in the pits, they see 40 cars, they think they're seeing something special. Knowledgeable fans that see 30 quality race cars, they know they're going to see a night full of great racing. So the line's definitely in the sand, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, definitely will be interesting because you have some cars at one races at Mercer, and where are they going to go?
Yeah, like Danny Holtgraver. Danny Holtgraver is he's a mainstay at Mercer. I mean, that kid is
strong.
He's bad fast
solid.
there every time
Yeah.
he's there. He's won 360 and the 410 race in the same day, starting
I didn't really want to
last.
call Danny out because
it
he's
is
like
what it
family
is.
to us.
Yeah, but that's the car. He's the guy that's
But that's where, in my mind, that's gonna make a big statement because the All-Stars are there. Like you said, he's bad fast there, very good there, and for him not to show up there, I don't even know what to say.
Well, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, and it's only a couple weeks away. And I guess I'm somewhat glad they didn't chose to play in our backyard. But I'm sure the time's coming for that too. So we'll see what happens when the time comes. Let's take a break, Steve.
All right.
We'll come back with Guy Webb.
Need some cash? The Hillside Pawn Shop, 503 West State Street in downtown Fremont can help. The Hillside Pawn Shop buys, sells, or trades gold, silver, coins, guns, toys, jewelry, and much, much more. Turn your old treasures into cash now. The Hillside Pawn Shop is open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, and Saturdays, 9 to 2. Call 419-307-8768. That's 419-307-8768. Hillside Pawn Shop in Fremont. Buy, sell, trade. Pawnbroker license PV.100620.000.
Taco Bell's XXL steak nachos are not a big meal for 6'10" NBA star Kevin Love. Even with 3 times the steak, they do not overwhelm Kevin Love.
Okay.
Nor do the XXL steak nachos intimidate Kevin Love.
That dude's huge.
But you are not Kevin Love. Taco Bell's XXL steak nachos. A regular sized meal for Kevin Love. A XXL sized meal for you.
Ah, would you look at that? A couple of retired coaches putting aside their college hoops differences to split an app and 2 entrees for just $20. Look at them bonding over the jazzed up flavor of those new Bourbon Street entrees. Just when I think people can't overcome their petty differences.
Yes! In your face, Knight!
Never mind.
You got anger issues. That's not how you throw a chair.
Only the best make our famous 2 for $20 menu, like the new creamy Cajun steak and shrimp pasta. A great deal for game day or every day. See you tomorrow.
Cutters. Uh-oh.
What are we gonna do now?
Give me the phone. Hello, Jimmy John's. Thank God you made it. I was so hungry I thought I was gonna die.
Jimmy John's, America's sandwich delivery experts.
Nice work, Johnson.
Well, welcome back, everyone. We're here to finish up the rest of the show this evening. We've got Guy Webb on the phone. Guy, you there with us?
We're here.
All right. How's it going tonight?
Things are going fine today.
We just had Rob Cheney on the line here with us, and he shared that his support for the Renegade series, or the
I don't know if he really supported the series, did he? Or did he supports change?
He supports the fact that he feels our sport needs some change, and supports the fact that the sport is there's some respect levels that need to be adjusted and those types of thing. He would like to see things to where we can have a positive future for the sport, going forward, and to some extent, I don't know that many people would disagree that there's some little issues that need to be addressed. It's just a matter of how big or how much of a stand, a person cares to take with those. And what's your take, Guy? Where do you stand on this deal? What do you think's the future, and where do you think we're going to end up going?
Well, the thing about all of these poor guys, it's just like if we go back to anything, do we want to have no issues? Yes, we don't want any issues. Do I want to pay tow money to every driver that pulls through the gate and pay them to come? Yes, but, fundamentally that's not going to happen. So when decisions are made about some get paid, some don't get paid, there's going to be some unhappiness. And unfortunately, we work for the fans, and, if the tracks are drawing 1,000 people, there's only so much money for the track to make money with, and that means there's only so much we could do. And getting together, and let's take a union, for example, which I guess is what the comparable would be, and say, we're going to get some demand. Well, what if the track is only selling 1,000 tickets and there isn't enough money to do what's being asked? What do we do then?
Well, on your guys' end of the sport, on the sanctioning body end of the sport, the sanctioning body is rarely at risk unless you take the risk as far as like leasing track.
We get risk too, because if we don't do well, we don't get to come back.
Well, that's true.
The understanding people are missing. You gotta make money if you own a track, or we don't get a comeback. Our only value is to sure that the tracks make money. We don't get to lose money at racetracks every time we come and expect to come back. And that's the other part. I mean, the bottom line to it is, change, well, I don't know what that means. I know one thing, a respect level. We respect our drivers by making sure that their check's clear, and that way, what we advertise, we pay $5,000 to win, $1,000 for 10th, $400 to start.
There's been
What am I supposed to do other than provide additional things that we can do and we can afford to do? I mean, that's just the nature of it. Now, you can argue with me about who gets paid any inducements and that kind of thing, but you know, I gotta remember back when I ran a car 10 years ago, or it's been 15, 16 years ago, you know, we got no tow money. We didn't get any free passes. We didn't get any points from the points fund that we raised for was a fourth of what I pay now.
Well, I know on the tow money thing, guys, some of these guys that are what we've seen advertised as committed to the Renegade series have called, you know, Fremont Speedway and requesting tow money, and we've never ever given tow money because it's just not something we believe in. If we I can just imagine the first time I gave tow money.
You provide an opportunity for those guys to race. And the purse is what most people will have to race for. And if you're wanting to go further, I mean, if you look in the stands, I've had this debate with people all along when they want more than what's available. For example, in Illinois, where I'm from, a special event over here draws 1,000 people. Well, that's a total income without the pits of $20,000. You can't pay $30,000 in bills to the drivers when you only have $20,000 in income.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
They say, well, get a sponsor. Well, who's going to give you $10,000 to do that? It doesn't work that way.
Well, it kind of seems that this whole incident seems like this whole incident started from the rain delay at Wayne County Speedway, and you know, Jason has firmly taken his stand that he's going to support your series going forward and so forth. But you know, supposedly you is rumored to have made a comment that there is only one All-Star, and that's kind of, from my understanding, what has led to this. Would you care to elaborate?
No, that's not true. What was going on, and this is the fundamental issue that happened here. It was not the time, nor the place, nor the environment to have the hard feelings and the hard words that were going on. Because, again, let's take a look at what was going on here. We had a severe thunderstorm in the area. We had to deal with the crowd issues related to that. And sadly, I'm involved in that. Secondly, the track wanted to try to run the track in and see what they could do when the weather permitted. And third, you know, the idea that we were going to, that it was appropriate at that time to have a rebellion or what would be a revolution out of respect is silly. Because if anybody would have looked at the weather and saw the logistics of what was coming, nature would take its course in due time. But those fans bought tickets, and they deserved an opportunity, some effort that we wasn't just going to cancel at the first sign of thunder. And that's, you know, it caused an extra 40 minutes, but the words that were spoken is about who's an all-star and all that. To have a person that's been there 2 years speaking, you know, I guess the thing that's disappointing, let's begin to have a conversation. You know, you and your group that run Fremont do a great job. There's no need to argue. The first words out of a person's mouth shouldn't be combative. I mean, we were sitting there in rain, and there was nobody with a gun trying to make somebody do something they didn't want to. And I kept repeating one phrase, we're going to stay till it rains. So if we all were looking at the same thing I was looking at, it appeared, I'm not a weather person, but it might rain pretty soon, and it did, within 5 minutes. 5 minutes after the excitement that was going on. But, you know, we had various people putting on the show, but it was really...
which ultimately is really a bruise for the sport.
Yeah, I mean,
when you have...
Yeah, with the sadness of everything, we don't really do, you know, the poor fans, I didn't really enjoy the fact that that's how we would, I was embarrassed, really.
Well, and at the end of the day, that whole deal, what people remember, they don't remember the rain or the rain delay. They remember the altercation between you and Shane.
Yeah,
and that just leaves a really,
really disappointing.
You don't want the sport to.
If that's all this is about, it's, the hard language, I get a kick out of a lot of things, but it's like arguing. If it's like when you go somewhere and you see two people on the street screaming and yelling. It's the event of the argument that's more entertaining than maybe what they're talking about. I just don't really think that was the place. And I didn't think it was needed because it was going to take care of itself. And it wasn't a time, ankle deep in mud, to sit there and to try to have some sort of a husband and wife spat over things that have been evidently building up for the last few months.
Well, there is no good time for that in the public. It's something that should be handled privately. If
I really thought, because, when I explained this to somebody this morning, I used a car for about, I think we raced with the All-Stars about 6 years. I never did speak at any of those meetings. And I spent, I paid my dues. And not that I'm saying that anybody that got loud and wanted to be a big shot that day, I just never did that. I live in Illinois, I'm 6 hours away from Ohio. Jared Hall drove around and had a good time with the car.
Well, now
I never buzzed in because I didn't feel it was my place.
At the end of the day, now, Guy, you have a series to compete heads up against you in the Renegades, which is to be rebellious or outlaw or spiteful.
And it concerns me because it's forceful.
And then you also have their namesake is Revolution.
Their new Revolution.
Which is, if you look it up by definition, it is a forcible takeover.
Look what happened here, and here's another thing. So to finally answer your question, we got more than one All-Star. Here's the reason I speak to Dale Blaney and Schaefer and people that are older than my age. I'm getting up there in age. Dale's raced a time or two. And I could have a calm discussion with this, not yelling, because the one thing that all of these people, and sadly if I was there, who was standing 15 foot behind me that they didn't know, was the promoter of the track. And that was embarrassing for me that was going on. And nobody knew that he was back there. But, that's embarrassing.
And at the end of the day,
Fremont, I don't air my dirty laundry, that's just not my personality. And, that's kind of the thing. The discussion we had there was about, I don't care about the safety of the drivers, and I want them to race in the rain, and I want them this, that, and the other. And the moral of the story and the fact is, we want them to put on a good show if we can race.
And I can relate to that because we had an incident a few weeks ago at Fremont where it had rained. It rained throughout the day. The racetrack looked like it was going to be a complete disaster. The guys worked hard. We got the place in shape and sent them out the hot lap. And the first person I went to is Byron Reed, because I know Byron he's raced for 25 years. He's going to tell me, whether I like it or not. He's going to tell me whether I got a unraceable situation or whatnot, and not because we don't take each and every one of our teams, into consideration, but we need someone that kind of fills that leadership role a little bit. And it used to be Mark Keegan for us, and now it's pretty much it's Byron, and he'll tell us if we think we're not in shape and that kind of thing. So I can totally relate to that.
I think everybody goes to the elder, whether it's your elder racer and I'm not saying old, but
well, we didn't get an outlaw show at Fremont for 19 years because Steve Kinzer don't like the place.
Right.
So.
Well, one thing you got to remember when you get into these things is, this is what I don't understand a lot of the time is that, they booked a race, and that's fine. I mean, I like everybody involved, but they're racing against the track championship at Attica and at Wayne County. Now, how do you run against, and look who's going to lose here. Fans, and they're advertising in 2 weeks.
It is Wayne County's track championship that night?
It's amazing to me that somebody would even book a race against a local track who's been running 410 sprint cars for 20 years, and another one that's got a history of it, who's just, he's this first-year promoter. I mean, that's not a good neighbor.
It is Wayne County's track championship night as well.
I believe they have their final night there, and minimally, it is their Napa Wayne County night, which is their primary title sponsor.
Well, you can. I think it's safe to assume that there's going to be some recourse for Atomic Speedway. I would assume that the members that have a controlling interest in Ohio Sprint Speed Week are probably going to speak very vocally of this.
I can't work with somebody that doesn't work with everybody else, so I'll just save the trouble of the tracks. I'm not working with somebody who doesn't respect the local tracks. I mean, Attica's been there for years. Wayne County has done a good job. And, Atomic has got, actually KC Raceway has got a good reputation. But you come into this stuff, you pay your dues, and you fit in. You've been doing this a long time at Fremont. You know more today than you need then. I know more today than I did when I started, and you just kind of fit in. But we don't run against each other. And no matter how mad we get mad at each other, we don't take these poor fans for granted, because let's take a look at the guy going to Attica now. He doesn't know what he's going to see. Well, let's think about the guys racing for their points total. Well, if they cancel the race, so now we've harmed the little guy. Why? Because we're mad at me. Well, I've got bad news for a few people. I got a fancy phone that knows how to find a few cars. And I don't believe, the guys, if you look at who's unhappy with me, I don't fully understand it. And, you can be mad at me if we're not predictable, not reliable, and we don't do the same thing over and over. But it's disappointing when the fans get confused, and here we go again, because I don't know how I'll tell you what, how would you like me to sit there and run against one of your big shows, and then call you up 3 days later and want to get something from you? Typically don't work too well.
I think they've, unless they've pre-negotiated this with some others, which I would find extremely hard to believe, this is probably going to make things a little difficult. It's hard to say. I know that racetracks intend to get together and have some conversation directly after Knoxville's over with and everybody's got a free moment pretty much. But I know there is some plans in place for that to happen. I've been contacted, as well as I've contacted others, and there's going to be some lengthy discussions, and I'm assuming that
you're entitled to make a living, and you're entitled to have some stability, because I got some other news that's really going to be interesting. We've already, Florida's done. That's already locked in. We're working to continue on the process, but I love the change atmosphere, and I don't want to go back 15 years ago, but I mean, when I came in here, the All-Star Points Championship paid $12,000 to win, and, we've doubled everything we've done. I mean, the facts of what we've done here, I mean, I don't know what I bought for that, and we've done quite a bit for the process, but the number one thing that we've tried to do is make sure that we're reliable and predictable. And, the worst thing that's developed, and I wish we could get rid of it, is paying people to come to the gates, because a lot of the jealousy, if you want to know the root of what really makes a lot of these guys get mad at each other, they don't pay before they get there. And that's, I got bad news. When I owned a car, we got $100, and I thought I was really doing something to get $100. And I wouldn't even bore you with the amount of money I'm getting asked for most of the time by people that don't even come to most of the races.
I have a question for you, Guy. I keep hearing that they want change.
Well, I'd like to know if they want improvement. I'd like to talk to them. Change?
Has anybody...
Change a thing, but I might improve a thing or two.
Has anybody spoken...
discussion with people that, I've never even talked to any of these people, except today that we had a little 5'8" guy shaking his finger at me because Jason's what he wanted to raise.
So nobody really has
Nobody
you don't really know what the improvements is.
But see, there again, that would be to, it gets back in, and I guess the thing that would be disappointing, it would be like I would talk to you about how would we improve things. And I would want to include, Well, I know the drivers and others, the thing I get a kick out, I used to own a car a lot longer than, you know, if you make a list of that, you know, some of these dissidents used to drive my car.
Now, none of these people that are as part of this, the new revolution or whatever, none of these renegades, prior to going out and basically putting a line in the sand and splitting the sport and all that, none of them contacted you on a non-race night where level heads could prevail to make some adjustments.
This is what we'd like to make to see better or
This is
improve.
a conversation. I love that. Well, as you both know, I love that conversation, and we always look to try to find a way to do things. I mean, the idea that, I'd love to have this, any type of improvements. But again, most of the conversation that we get into and what we've got to focus on also is I'd love the opportunity, but the problem of it is we've got to have an opportunity to have a discussion. Because Christ, I got told that we were bouncing checks, for example.
Yeah.
I had no idea that we were bouncing checks. Sadly, we were not bouncing checks. But when one guy tells another guy, who tells his sister, who tells his brother,
It only takes one.
I'm not on the internet, so I didn't even know. And then I get the guy who said, he calls me and he's all confused, and I don't want to be mean to the poor fella, but he happens to work at a bank. I mean, that's pretty entertaining. I'll just say that.
Well, at the end of the day, guy, you know, there's obviously a fight. There's obviously going to be
I don't know if there's a fight, because today I just finalized Florida about everywhere we went this year, we're going to go again. I mean, the only fight may be is I can't afford to pay every car to come through the gate. You're not going to give me the extra money to pay every person before they raise.
Do you have something in place like your top 10 in points get toll money, or there has to be some? You don't just pull out of a hat every week on who gets.
No, it's all firm. I mean, we negotiate at the beginning of the year. The champion makes $500 a night at least, and then there's additional things when we travel east and west that they can do. We've got some things there. Nobody makes less than $300 a night to walk through the gate, so it's ridiculously high.
And those are that just to clear the air.
There's some jealousy with that, which is driving most of this. And there's decisions to be made. Kyle Casey's a good example. He deals with the money. He's got a fixed budget. When we're going places, there's a yes and a no. I find it funny that the people that have complained the most are the guys that seem to be on the no list a lot.
Now, just to clear the air on the tow money perspective, the people that get the guaranteed tow money, those are the guys that support your national series, correct?
Yes, they have to travel with us.
And then if you get to a spot, maybe at a race, let's just pick a race somewhere, Wilmot, Butler, wherever. You just pick an event, and you maybe need a few extra cars or whatever. If a guy out of the blue would call you, say like a Terry McCarl, if he would call you and say, "Hey guy, do you got something for me? To come this way?" And if you do, you do. And then maybe if a guy calls you that is not as popular, maybe it's not something you don't feel will sell the tickets or help sell the tickets, that person may or may not be told no, or maybe there's been issues with a person.
There might be an amount of money, and the other part of it is there could be a little misunderstanding, but the thing of it is, if we've committed 7 to 10 cars, for example, a good example is on a race like that. If I've committed 10 cars, we're gonna keep looking for 10 cars until we get 10 cars. But when we get to 10, the 11th and the 12th and the guys that we can't afford, that's a no.
Yeah, there's only so much money to go around.
The policy and the practice has worked good for years, and that's just what it is. But again,
now when we had
the money is getting ridiculous, because I'm not coming to the tracks and wanting to fans and say I need more money so I can pay more appearance money. And to be honest with you, we advertise the shows, and we're looking to make sure that we meet our commitment. But it's just like with anything, we have to work together. But guys, we have a list of, I'd say, about 35 people that are pretty tight to what I do, that are looking to be part of the program.
Now not to be selfish or anything, but there's been talk that the Renegades may choose to boycott Fremont, Attica, Wayne County All-Star events that we all have coming up within the next 60 days, and I'm assuming you're prepared for that, and that tow money is going to be in full effect.
To be honest with you, just to put perspective for everybody that's been around, the same dissidents have tried this 2 other times. This isn't anything new. I heard this when my mother passed in 03. I heard this back when we had some issues with tires. I've heard this now. It is nothing new. It's always the same people. The one good news is, this will be the last time, there's about 3 of them that won't need to worry about coming to see us, because I really think I've done as much as we can, because I want the fans to come and enjoy themselves. I don't need to be exposed in a political debate, and I don't want a bunch of guys running around the pits doing anything but want the race.
Now, what is different about this one compared to the others that I've seen, as a track promoter, is that these guys have written commitments from teams.
Yeah, but I mean, without dates, what are you going to raise?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, great, you got teams, but I'd rather have some dates, and everything of it is. And they may get some dates, but I'm going to get some dates too. There's 2 facts. I'm not going anywhere. I've got commitments for over 45 dates right now. I'll be doing business next year. I have a list of 32 sponsors that are going to be there this year. And all of this silliness that links me not having my points fund paid on time and linking it to a bad check, those are, well, number one, we never bounced any checks, so that's proof. We have ran $12 million through our bank account in 12 years and not bounced 1 check, and that's a fact. Verified by...
And you've openly admitted that the points fund was paid late, and that you had agreements...
We had 3 people that were paid late. We ended up making the news because of... I still don't know why we got into the news over in Pennsylvania, because all we had is that we had agreed terms with everybody, but, I had a bad phone call, and I admit freely that I didn't enjoy the language that was being used to me, and I didn't, based on that, but the deal never changed. So but see, that's the difference. If I didn't want open, most people, if they do something wrong, they want to hide it. There's nothing ever been hidden with me. So clear.
Well, one last question for you, Guy. Who wins the war?
I didn't know anyone. I booked the Florida dates today. I don't have anyone else wins any of them. But there's not really,
I like to hear...
anywhere. As God is my witness, I'm not going anywhere. He may give him some dates, God love him, but we're going to have dates too.
I like to hear you say that you don't have any ill will towards them, because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, we all still have to be cohesive together. And I don't...
I have to, it's like with you two. You run one of the good speedways that you've taken a good speedway and made some great events. You've done a lot of the non-race related stuff that's probably better than anybody has done that I deal with, and that's impressive. But the thing of it is, we don't seem to want to get along, and we want to get even. But I've not heard anybody of these guys talk about specifics. And secondly, that worry about whether the fans get screwed or not. That's bad.
At the end of the day, for me, I'm always racer at heart. Me and Farmers sometimes kind of butt heads about the promoter end of it. That's all him. He does that. So I would like to see, me personally, I'd like to see, the All-Stars have been around forever. I hate to see, history. I don't like change. I don't think anybody likes change, but I don't think it should come across that however it pans out, that they're not welcome back with your group.
They're not by any means not going to be welcome back in there. There's a few individuals that they're going to have to do quite a bit of talking, but the history on their side is people that typically get into this type of thing, it's disappointing. It's kind of, when you make a divorce and you want to make it as bitter as you want to, here's where we're at here. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not the one running around being mean. I didn't even know it was bouncing checks, so one of them made that story up.
Yeah.
And that's, it's good talk, but, we're still going to focus on selling tickets. And if they're going to cut races, we'll find
was also some talk about whether or not you would sell the All-Stars, and I know I've offered to buy it, and
Several times.
When the health freezes over, when I sell it to a group of dissidents.
well, I'm not a group of dissidents, but if just to clear the air, everybody says, well, has anybody approached a guy about selling it? And I know that I have, and
Well, I've had plenty of discussions about the future of the sport.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because I think you like what's going on, you like your business, and you like the sport. You're good for the sport because you're interested, and you're not interested in making every penny you can off of the fans. And you'll race on a night that it's a little wet. People can depend on you, and you're good for it. But getting other people involved just because they want to own something, I don't see that.
yeah.
And nobody's ever asked me,
Let me try to make
and I'm not going to have a gun held to my head like they're going to win anything because, I don't see Steve Kinzer in that roster, but I see a lot of good men that probably, if they would have a time to communicate with me and take down the silliness and want to talk, I'd love to talk to each one of them. I like Shane Helms. I don't know why he's mad. I apologized if he got his feelings hurt, but it was not the time for the discussion. And, I don't know what further. If we're all going to operate on a premise of working together, bottom line is we're going to need to sit there and have a business, which means...
Have you reached out to them at all? Have you reached out to Shane? Have you reached?
I've not called him. I wouldn't know how. I called him the night that this event occurred, and then I sat there, and he didn't return the phone call. I saw him at KC, and I communicated with him, and we had cordial communication. But it appears to me this whole thing is, it's a game, and sadly, if it's not, I hear more from other people than I do from any of them, and the fact of it is I don't fully understand why they're wanting to get the drivers behind, because let's just say what happened a few years ago, where a track would close, like Wayne County. Well, it took somebody to buy the track and provide a racetrack for them to be racing. And I'm not saying the drivers are not important, but...
And it wasn't all that long ago that Atomic...
We lost our tracks, so that we lost our racing.
Well, it wasn't all that long ago that Atomic Speedway was closed as well, and we hate to see any racetrack close, or especially like the incident at Lakeville where they closed it and the place will never be open, and it had a real rich history and tradition, and that's the bad thing about when these splits type of deal happens. It makes it
Everybody hurts. The
Yes.
tracks hurts. The drivers
Well, I'm
hurt.
disappointed when you say Shane things. I always thought we got along well. I don't ever remember a conversation where we did anything that we didn't say we were going to do, but I guess
He didn't.
it would be wild to hear the opportunity or hear the story on that, because I personally want to make sure that we provide stability, because it's just like with the work that goes on with this. I mean, you're doing great up there, and some of the promotions you've done have been, nobody else is doing anything like that. I don't see them in Pennsylvania, I don't see them in Florida, I don't see them out west. It's something to be proud of.
Well, Guy, we appreciate that.
Races, because there isn't going to be a track.
Well, hopefully all this stuff passes over, gets through, and
One thing before we'll clarify, Rob did not speak negative of the
not at
All-Stars,
all.
or he just feels there's some room for improvement.
Well, I do too, and I would love for that, and I appreciate that, because I think he and his wife have been, he is a perfect kind of a driver, because I've never heard him say a bad word about anybody, honestly, in all the years I've even watched him race.
Yeah, I agree.
And just like with what you guys have done, it's just, and that's the thing. I just think some people take for granted that this is easy. And there's days when some of us don't do well, and I'll be the first to admit I don't always make the correct decision, but I can always say one thing. We try, and we try not to make the same mistake twice. And that's the only thing you can do in a process like this. But I still think everybody's going to find the right way, and, it's disappointing that some people are, because I'm not going to badmouth Shane Helms or anybody, because there's no purpose in that. We're going to put our head down, run our races, and I'm going to keep my word.
Do you have most of your sponsors coming back for next year? Have any of them?
Everybody's long-term here.
Okay.
The the university, and all of those are people that are a large part of what we do. We're all here. We're all connected. I mean, to be honest with you, we've got probably 5 tracks already renewed for next year, and if anything's happened out of this, which I don't think they fully intend to understand, is that I've already got people my schedule will be done in probably 3 weeks if it keeps going like this.
Well, I also heard that, everybody's talked, well, you can't even get a race in Illinois. I've heard and talked to a promoter out there that sounds like he's going to take one of your events out there in Illinois, and that'll be a new addition to your schedule this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've got that. We've got some more stuff in Pennsylvania. And to be honest with you, it's impressive to see really what's going on here at the track. Well, I wish some of these people would get an idea and follow somebody like you or somebody that on a rainy day, when you get up in the morning and it's raining, and you know that 2 hours can cost you $7,000 to $10,000 in profit that you got to write the check for. That feeling, that's a special person that puts out with that. That's a terrible way to feel.
Every time the diesel truck goes
There's
around.
I mean, people don't understand. I used to try to promote races years ago. I lost a fortune. I'm terrible at it. And I've told both of you this. I don't have the stomach for it. Because my luck is it always looks like it's going to rain. And that's, that feeling right there, and I'm not a gambler.
That used to be
I admire people that do that, because a lot of people need to put their money and see how that works, because anybody that ever gets mad at you too, ought to be around on the day about 11 o'clock when it's misting or slightly raining and the forecast looks bad.
And we've already got staff there and
You're spending money.
cooking
You gotta
and
advertise.
diesel
You got
burning.
$600 in diesel fuel.
Two weeks ago we went through that. We had people out across the street to buy tickets, and the gates were open, are getting ready to open, and it's raining, and then last week it's rained, and we've been very fortunate this year that we've only had these couple rainouts, but when you get...
And the worst thing of it is you write the check, and if you do what's right, and it costs you $7,000, how many bills can you pay with a guy on pit gate saying, good job?
We don't get very many of those good job pit gate
No,
responses.
but the thing of it is, you can't pay your bills with that, and the other part is, it's the promotions that go along with that. I mean, think about this. If you don't plan that stuff out and you do your, look at the year's picture. This is why I really kind of miffed at my buddy down at KC, because they need that. Look at Attica. They've lost their All-Star Spring. They've lost their Speed Week day. They need a big day. They need as many good days as they can get.
They do.
They don't need competition when they didn't agree to it.
Direct competition.
No, and Attica does a really good job with that race, that weekend. It's a 3,000 to win event. It's a championship night. They do some double points. They put some effort into it. And, it's...
And I pray to God that they go, because they deserve a good night. They don't need that 2 weeks before, because when all of us, this is the other thing nobody understands, all of us look at each other's schedule before we release them. People ought to realize that.
Correct.
We work together.
Yeah, we always share schedules. And
that way we don't run on each other, because this is, Attica needs that night. And I'm not being told to say that. Wayne County needs a good night, because he needs to renew his title sponsor, because without sponsors, makes it tough. But, nobody sees that. But
And in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, I think that it's really kind of crappy. And I'm not calling the Renegades themselves I think it's crappy that they went up against those 2 tracks
well, if you want
on
to get after
purpose.
me, what are you doing going after 2 tracks you want to have friends with?
well, 3 tracks if you think about it,
Well, yeah,
because
Mercer, he's even funnier than that. Mercer, the sponsor of my Mercer race are running against, happens to be the sponsor of a car that says he's running with the Renegade Tribe.
Ouch.
So think about that guy. He's sponsoring my race, and then the car won't even be there because he's down there holding his breath because he's mad. We'll see how he goes and where that money goes next year. Not a lot of thinking going on when it comes to that, and it's not that I don't want to talk about drivers. I want to make sure there's tracks so I get a raise. Because I got to tell you, once again, if you go away, where am I going? I need you to be there.
yeah.
I need you to have some money, because if not, guess what you'll do? It looks like, let's go back
at the end of the day, I don't see Atticus canceling their race. They're going to race. They're going to go heads up into this deal. Wayne County's going to race. They're going to go heads up into this deal. Mercer's going to race. Everybody's going to race, providing the weather's good for everybody, and it'll all shake itself out. And my only hope is we don't deal with this for a whole nother winter between tires and all these different things. It'd just be nice to have a winter that is relaxed.
You got bigger issues to worry about. The work you did with the Bowmans on your sponsorship and things like that, that's a place where your time ought to be spent to make yourself some money and to make some promotions where people get excited and to sit there and I promise one thing, we're not going to bounce any checks. So now that I know, and the good thing from that, I'm now having somebody watch that, so I make sure that I don't have on the internet. I didn't know I was that big of a goof until I found out on the internet that we did all these things wrong. But bottom line is, we've got all of our points issues results, and everybody is in the process. And even the guys that got mad, here's a good example. 8 letters back and forth between two sides. Think about that, 8 letters. I don't know why a phone call couldn't have solved that problem, but,
Well, hopefully...
Take care of itself, but when you're mad, that's what happens.
Well, and in this day and age, it's easy. This day and age, technology has made it. You don't have to do anything personally. They've taken the personal aspect out, and I'm guilty of that. I text everything. Everything that I do is through social media.
You're with that. I mean, you're comfortable with that, but I must be too old because I'm embarrassed at the fact of this check. I could have killed that back a minute after it happened if I'd have known. And I do have to work a little better on making sure that we're a little more socially acceptable because I'm at the age where I guess I resist that stuff because I really think that if I want to get to know you, I'm accessible to the fan because most of the people we have they like to talk.
And see, you may need to step up your social stuff because we just had this conversation. I don't think that there's all this Guy Webb and All-Star stuff going on, this talk going on, and I told Farmer one day, I said, I could take a picture of Guy Webb and pass it through our grandstands and probably 1 out of every 10 might know who you are to see you.
Yes, and that's true, and I have to do that. That's good advice, and I have to step up that process. But I bet the person that doesn't like me probably likes me, but thinks that I'm some evil guy with horns and...
Well, they don't know who you are. They just know the story.
I really thought whatever. I guess that's a part of the equation there as we get a little better. But the moral of the story, this is like videotaping a good topic for later. Is pay-per-view of the races. I mean, our sport has got so many big things we got to really look at for positive stuff for future, and we're arguing over who gets $300 a night and Ed Ray's mad because he didn't get $300 because he was disrespected and that guy did, and he's a no good bum, and I beat him twice last week at Attica. I've created a bad culture that I'm going to have to work to clean up because a lot of it's related to jealousy and who gets what, and I'm not hiding from the fact that we're going to put out our points fund. I'm putting them all back together. That will come out soon. I'm going to put out my needs for cars next year because I got some, but they can start communicating. You get $300 to show up every time. I have a complete package I offer, only a set number, and then we go from there. But I can guarantee you this, and Rich can bear this out, I don't recruit local cars, and I would never do what was done right down there because we have a deal. We're working together here. That's something I don't think people realize how much cooperation needs to be there.
Most of our
there because I don't want to hurt anything. I want to do business.
Most of our
come into town. I sure don't want somebody with a gun in their head.
Most of our local cars are local because they want to be local.
Well, exactly. And why would I want to sit there? And that's the thing. And if they want to do that, you're doing the work because we're not local. There can't be anything beyond that. And I'll be honest with you, there is not 50 days within 4 hours of Findlay, Ohio, without an absolute war amongst the tracks. There just isn't that demand for that there, unless you run all the local tracks out of business. Because there's only 6 of you. What are you going to do, take 7 dates apiece? When does the locals race?
Well, I agree with that. And, it's already been pretty much told to me that, that we have too many all-star events or.
Well, there could be a debate. I got too many races there now. You're going to need 4 more to get that 50.
Yeah.
So there goes 4 more weekly shows gone.
You know, we've been Fremont Speedway's been designated the home of the All-Stars for a reason. It isn't because because we run less races than the next guy or whatever the case might be. It's and it is something that we're very proud of to be home of the All-Stars.
Well, I'm proud to be involved in that. I mean, the thing that I laugh about is that you've always made a lot of effort to make free. You're the only place that I go to that's inside a community. And that's cool. That is, using the kids' word, it is a very, the energy's there, it's old school, and I like it because that's what I used to see as a boy 40 years ago watching the races. It's a fairground in the city.
Yeah, it is
so
unique.
It's impressive. It's the only place we go that does that.
And we have really cool fans, to use that word again that you just used.
You got people that are excited. You got Timmy that comes, that's worked there. I mean, you got a guy that's been, the security guys are the same guys been there for 10 years.
I was told by a fan that they feel when they come to Fremont that they have a stake in it, or it's their place too, and that's kind of how Rich has made it,
Well, and I think the good thing about that, it's the fact that more than anything is it just look at how the support's always been there for the community, because I don't know, it's amazing that, and again, I'm not saying anything against drivers, but we got to have a place to race before there can be a race, right? And it takes everybody. It takes 3 people. It takes a driver, it takes the fans, and it takes a track.
Yeah, it takes an owner unless you're the driver or owner. It does, we have a lot of.
It also takes a level of respect so we all get along. But I don't know of anything where there's any hard changes that made it any better. And you got to remember, like the NST split too, how that happened. I mean, all of the tracks went with the World of Outlaws. Well, Corfair Brownfield started leasing tracks, taking risks, losing money. I don't remember any of those guys. And had to lose his rear end. And the last time he lost his butt big time was in Des Moines. I went to Des Moines. It was over in outside of Davenport, Iowa. It was over here right where I'm at. I didn't see any of those drivers that said, "Brett, you just took a bath. Here's my money back. I don't want you to pay me because we're in this together."
Well, I know John Boers.
Sadly passing soon thereafter, and there was an awful big hole left.
Yeah, John could tell you a financial story about the NST deal, and if Jim was still around.
I remember any of the drivers back then, not to be named, but walked up to Jim Ford back then, or John Boers, and say, "Eddie, thank you for helping us. Here's my winnings back to go against the loss." And that happens, you'll fall over dead, because I tell you what, the few times that I busted my rear end in Lake City, Florida, I lost, $35,000 in 2 days.
Yeah.
And I'm not proud of that. I'm embarrassed by that. I had to call back home and explain why I had taken some of my money out of one of my little retirement things. I was embarrassed, and everybody that asked me what I had done, I was embarrassed. And then I realized I have no business doing any promoting. I'm not good at it.
Yeah. Well, Guy, we're going to wrap it up here, and we thank you for calling in today, and hopefully we'll get through this, and everybody will figure out their place here shortly.
All right, so thank you both.
All right, take it easy, Guy.
Thanks.
See ya.
Well, I hope from that if anybody heard that he kind of opened up a line of communication with the drivers. He said he hasn't spoken to any of them since the Speed Week. So maybe there's a lack of communication. I know there's other things that, we've talked about it, that there is some disrespect with the way some of them are spoken to and stuff, and I think that goes a long way. I know maybe you don't.
Well, I've been to plenty of all-star events, not just at our place, but at Attica and Speed Weeks and all over the place. And there's been times where I'd just like to knock Kyle on my ass myself.
I'm the same way, and it's nothing personal against Kyle, but
No.
I think he's a young kid with a lot of authority, and he needs to learn some respect. And
And
respect goes a long, long way.
But like you said, Guy opened up the door for these
Right.
guys to they can reach out and call him. He's willing to talk, and
No,
and I'm assuming that they're probably not going to want to talk because they,
well,
they're
now
on.
it's gone so far where
Well, they're revolutionizing
Egos
sprint car racing, and
Right.
they're using their own terms. So, hopefully we hear from Shane after Knoxville and kind of understand, and maybe there's a lot that we don't know or don't understand that that he wasn't willing to share on the show for obvious reasons. So
he's not usually too shy about sharing, as you
no, Guy's always very upfront about sharing, but Shane's not gonna obviously put out on the public airways everything. He's in a competitive spot right now. It's it's a battle. It's gonna be
it's a competition.
it's gonna be kind of fun to watch, I guess, to a certain degree, because somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose, and at the end of the day, I just hope our sports can stay unified, whether these guys all end up being renegades or they end up being all stars or
I think the
wherever.
renegade and the new revolution turns me off. The words, the phrasings that they're using to me when I see powerful takeovers and
Yeah, I think they wanted something edgy and something that that grabbed people's attention, and obviously the name has to grab your attention, because if it was called the Helms Family Circus, chances are nobody's really going to care to come.
True.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, or however you get on here, checking it out, and we'll be back next week. Hopefully we'll have some other good guests and
Saturday night
and so
at Fremont
forth.
Speedway.
Bring a friend night?
No, not Bring a Friend night.
that rained
you need
out.
to look at your schedule. Local Merchants night.
Local Merchants
Yep.
Night. So you bring a coupon from the last 2 weeks of any of our local sponsors,
A
or
coupon is in receipt.
or a receipt, I should say,
Yep.
or where you purchased a product from any of our sponsors, and we'll give you $2 off at the gate, and hopefully you guys get out and support all those guys, because without them we definitely wouldn't be as successful as we are. So thanks, and have a good night.